2 years since I built my collapsible.
Oh, we're not playing that.
2 years since I built my collapsible shelves for markets. They have gone crazy on Pinterest, TikTok, and my Instagram. And we are finally buying the materials to build a second set, and I am making a tutorial while we do that. And so if you're willing to put in the time, then I'm gonna take you along for the ride. These are for the shelf base. It's a 12, 10, 8, and 6 by 4 foot piece of pine. And we're gonna need 8 of these 1 by 2 by 4 foot pieces of select pine, and these are gonna go on the front of the shelves. The last thing is gonna be this 1 by 3 by 6 foot, and that's gonna be these. You're gonna need a variety of these 3/4 inch by 48 inch dowels. I'm gonna grab 10. These are gonna be in the electrical section, but you need these 2 pull straps. You're gonna need some folding supports. Make sure you get 1 right and 1 left. And then we're also gonna grab a couple of these strap hinges. You're only gonna need one of these if you wanna hang apparel or something heavy, but we need a 4 foot steel rod. In the same section, we need 2 of these flat aluminum pieces. And then we're also gonna need some cotter pins. Since our dowels are 3/4 inch, I'm grabbing these 1 1/4 inch cotter pins. So however many dowels you have, you're gonna need twice as many cotter pins. You're gonna need a variety of screws. I have these to fasten the brace. We're gonna need 4 of these big guy bolts for attaching the brace to the frame. So I'm gonna grab 2 packs. These are 3/8, 16, 1.5 inch bolts. And then you're gonna need 4 wing nuts. The important thing is to make sure that this and this matches. And the last screw that you need are some wood screws, 1/2 inch will work, and these are for attaching the 2 strap things to the wood. I forget what they're called right now. You're also gonna need some wood glue, and the last thing you're gonna need, which I'm not gonna buy, is polyurethane or stain if you wanna stain it. We got everything we need, so we're gonna go check out. We were using the bucket as our basket. $340 later, we have everything. Now, the one thing I do want to say about all the wood that we bought, in my instructions, I list out 4 foot pieces of wood for these shelves. However, me and my dad are going to cut it down because we need these shelves to be slightly under 4 feet because the dowels and the X brace are going to be exactly 4 feet. And these have to sit in between the frame legs. So we need it less than 4 feet. So if you want to minimize your cutting and not cut all of these pieces down, that's fine. But you are going to have to find dowels, aluminum flat pieces, and rods that are 4.5 feet or longer. So you're probably gonna end up having to cut those down or cutting the 4 foot pieces down. There's not really a way to get out of this without cutting as far as I know. I think the next step up from 4 feet is 6 feet. My dad and I are gonna cut this wood down by about 5.5 inches. We have them marked. Everyone say hi, Dad. We have the 12, 10, 8, and 6 inch pieces of wood, and then all of these 1 by 2s. We're gonna staple them together and wood glue them together. And you're also gonna need a wet rag for cleanup. And here they are all glued together. You can see how well they nest into each other. It is day 2 of building, and this is what we're going to be doing today. One thing I forgot to mention is you are going to need a big open space to work with, ideally 4 by 6 feet, but if you have more than that, that's even better. So we're going to start with the legs first. We're just going to lay them out like this, and this is really important. This is leg A1, A2, B1, and B2. I am actually going to take a pencil and label these A1, A2, B1, B2. We'll end up sanding these, so this will disappear later. Now, one really other important point is that this needs to be even down here because all the drilling needs to happen at the same spot. So I have it even. Now I'm literally going to tape these together so I don't have to worry about keeping an eye on this. So now we're gonna take a tape measure. We're gonna start it down here at the bottom, run it all the way to the top, and then we're gonna make the marks that are in the digital download for the 2-hole straps. And I'm gonna make those marks in a couple places. Once that's done, you're gonna need a straight edge, and we're gonna go all the way across with these lines. So now we're gonna grab the 2-hole straps and place them where we made our mark. So I'm gonna place all these down first, but then we're gonna mess with the positioning a little bit from piece to piece. So to make a long explanation short, the positioning of the 2-hole straps on A1 and B2 will match each other, and the positioning of the straps on A2 and B1 will match each other. So it's gonna look like this. We're gonna grab a drill, and then I have a 3 and 30-second drill bit, and then we're gonna go behind once the pilot holes are drilled and attach the 2-hole straps with the wood screws and the drill. We are not drilling through to the other side. We're just drilling pilot holes for the screws. So you don't even need to go that far in. Now we're just gonna screw these into place. These are all screwed in nice and even, so we are good to take this tape off. Just to show you what I mean on the collapsibility, these two pair together for a front and back leg, and when we flip it, like that, you're gonna notice that they just sit side by side instead of hitting each other. Next, we are going to attach these strap hinges to the front and back legs on each side. This is where having more than 6 feet of space lengthwise is really gonna help. If you have built my collapsible pegboard stand, we're gonna attach these the exact same way. We're gonna take B2, put it towards the bottom. We're gonna take B1 and flip it, and we'll meet it here. Strap hinge will go here. And then for the A pieces, we're gonna do the exact same thing. Now for the strap hinge positioning, all we want is for this circle part to be kind of on its own, not overlapping with any wood. Now it's just the same thing as earlier, drilling pilot holes and then attaching the hinges. And I'm using the same wood screws that I used for the 2 strap holes. So here's our legs laying out. You will notice that these 2 that I put on the inside kind of stop this from being able to fold any flatter. And you can move these 2 to the back side if you want. This has never really been that big of a deal breaker for me because when we travel, we turn one of the leg sets the other way, and that way, since they're both triangular, they end up forming a flat rectangle. Next up, we're gonna get the brace built with the 2 aluminum flat rods. In order to do the least amount of drilling possible, we're gonna tape these together, and it'll ensure that the drill holes are in the same position on each piece. Now, if you can drill in some kind of elevated surface, that's the easiest. So I just have a 4-foot folding table right here. And then I have my drill and a 3/8 inch drill bit because my bolts are 3/8 inches. And I'm literally just gonna drill through these. Drilling through this aluminum is a little harder, so just hold tight and be patient. And we're gonna drill right along the edge. I'm about 1/2 inch from the end of the aluminum piece. We're almost through the first one. I don't know if they make drill bits that are actually for metal. I'm just a girl. Now we made it through to the other side, so I'm gonna come around and start from this side just to finish it out. And we have a nice clean hole now. You can see that mine is not really completely center, and it doesn't really matter. We're going to adjust the marks on the wood to whatever holes you made here. And now we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. I hate this part, honestly. Just to show you, we were using a 3/8 inch drill bit because we want this big bolt to fit through those holes. Lastly, for the bolt that goes in the middle, we need to be a little bit more exact. So I'm whipping out the tape measure. We're just gonna find the halfway mark. So there's 24 inches. We have these screws that are number 10. That is a 3/16 inch diameter. So we're gonna use the 3/16 inch drill bit to drill right here. Now for this, you're just gonna want something for support on both sides. I'm using this other leg set and the table still, and we're gonna drill right there. While these pieces are still taped together, we are going to attach these 3/16 inch nut and bolt right there. And now, when we take this tape off, we have a perfectly good X-brace for the back. Obviously, I've been up and down on this ground a lot, so I'm gonna sweep this up. This is usually a better step to do outside. So now we are going to attach the X-brace to the legs like this, but we need to watch for a few different things. So the first thing is that the X-brace is gonna attach to your back piece. So if you're using that extra dowel on the back, you need to make sure the piece with that extra 2 strap is on the top, since we're working on the back piece. So when you're looking at it from above, you need your A pieces and you need your B pieces. You need A on the right and B on the left. Next, we need to make sure that we have the right amount of space in between the legs. So I'm gonna take one of the shelves that we just built and just put it here on the floor. Make sure that this is straight with it, this is straight with it, and I want a flat edge all the way across. This will allow for 2 things. 1, these are even, and 2, this distance is correct. Now we can take this brace and just attach it down here like that. Just a different angle. We have it straight from top to bottom and then straight all the way across and then top to bottom over here. And I just laid this flat. I don't have exact measurements for this because the holes that you create for your brace are gonna be slightly different from mine. We're using that 3/8 inch drill bit again. So what you can do is start it to figure out where you need to drill, and then you can move the piece out of the way and go the rest of the way. Now I'm gonna grab my bolts and I'm gonna go ahead and put this through here. That way I don't have to worry about the positioning getting off as I'm doing this. Instead of doing this one next, I'm gonna do that top one that connects here. This was just away from the shelf from it moving around, so I'm just pushing that flush again, making sure everything is still lined up. Same thing with the bolt on this side. So now with those 2 attached, this one sits flat and then this one can still do its own thing for now. What I'm gonna do now is just position this to where it's at a pretty good angle, but still touching on both sides where we can still screw through. Again, we're gonna check that the distances are correct. Same thing for this last one. Now we can just take the wing nut and attach it on the bottom side. Get this out of here. And now we can stand this up. So here it is standing up. I wanted to show you something you can do down here by the cross brace to make setup easier. And you might want to do this after you set it up for the first time, just to be on the safe side so you don't have to worry about it again and have to figure it out. But I just like to have a little arrow pointing to the inside on both legs. So I'm going to do an arrow facing the opposite direction on the other. And this is just so that you know which leg goes on which side when you set up, which is especially important if you did the offset from front to back, or if you botched your drilling the first time like I did. I'm gonna grab this table so that we have an elevated workspace again. And then we need all of our billion dowel rods. And then that one aluminum piece as well if you're using it. And we're gonna line all these up. And this is just gonna be a drilling bonanza here real quick. I'm gonna tape them together again. Go like this, like that. Now what we're gonna do for these pieces is we're making little spots for the cotter pins to go in. So we're just gonna drill all the way down the row about 1/2 inch from the edge. Same for this aluminum piece. This one's gonna take a little bit more time though. I forgot to say this, but I am using a 3 3/32 inch drill bit. Those are all drilled on one side, so we're just gonna untape it and flip it. Now we do have to be a bit more careful because we need all these pieces to have the holes vertically so that they're vertical on both sides. So I'm just sitting here rotating them. So the tape will be really helpful for this. You can see all of the holes are facing up now. What we're gonna do now is put a dowel in each of these little slots. So we're almost there. Next we're gonna add cotter pins into the holes that we just drilled. We just need to do the straight hinges here now, but we're gonna put the shelves on to get that front to back distance right. And you just gotta be careful with this. If you have an extra person, that would be good. I'm gonna try it by myself and see how it goes. We're just gonna grab the biggest shelf and you're gonna go in diagonally. And then you can set it on top of these dowels like that. And what we're gonna do from that point is pull this out, and we're gonna pull open both sides. And just to make sure the sizing is correct, we're gonna do all 3 shelves, and then we're going to attach that flat bracket hinge piece. She is looking good. I'm so excited. Okay, hi. So what we're gonna do here is attach this flat hinge. The benefit of this piece is that it locks forward and back. So if someone hits your leg, it's not gonna push the shelf in. And I'm facing the shelf. I'm on the left side right now. We're gonna use a left folding support right here. This is another thing that we're just gonna eyeball, and we're gonna attach it to where it can sit straight, but still connect both front and back. So I'm just holding it here. I'm gonna make one mark there. The key to look for is that it can fold up, and then if you have the exact same hinges as me, there's a little bow right here, and you want it to bow outward, not inward. We're gonna do that same thing. You want this curve to bow out, and we're gonna attach it right around there. And something I forgot to mention is that you wanna make sure you're kind of like pulling the legs apart from each other as you're going, because its tendency is gonna be to wanna try to close. The last thing we're gonna do is attach 2 of the 2-strap holes on the back, and this is where the aluminum rod sits if you are using it for hanging apparel. I would recommend just putting this right along the edge mark, and then same as before. You'll need to put that on both sides, and once you do, you can then put in your split rod, there and there, and then of course you're still gonna need cotter pins, and that, my friends, is the completed apparel display. We're on day 3 of filming. I brought the 2 legs and all of the shelves outside, and we are going to sand, stain, and seal these pieces. This is an optional step, but if you want your shelves to last a long time, I would definitely recommend sealing the wood. The stain is entirely optional. I stained my first set, so we're staining the second set. If you want, you can also use wood filler at this step to fill in where your staples or nails were on these shelves. I'm not gonna do that. We're just gonna take my electric sander and a hand sander to all of these pieces. So what I'm doing right now is undoing this front to back hinge so that it's easier to sand on the inside of these pieces. So Trey is sanding around the hardware. I'm gonna use the electric sander on the shelves and then on the big surface areas of the legs. So some of my pieces were a little bit longer than the others, so I'm gonna take this second to sand this down. Okay, sanding is the worst part and that is now done, so we're just wiping everything down to get all the dust off. So we have moved on to staining now. I have this piece here that I was testing on the bottom side because I wanted to get the color right. The stain that I have wasn't quite right, so I ended up mixing this spring oak with a weather oak, which is like a little bit darker because I was trying to get it to match my other set of shelves. So all I'm doing right now is brushing it on. I'm really not letting the stain sit long at all. Of course, what color you want will depend on how long you let the stain sit and when you brush it off, etc., etc. Here's everything all nice and stained. I ran out of time to do the coating today, so that'll have to be a different day, but I'm gonna let that dry and then I'm gonna get this mess cleaned up. Last day, best day. I'm just adding the polyurethane coating today. Good old paintbrush. Got everything set up again. I'm just gonna do one thick coating of this across everything. So let the record show that I am using a semi-gloss polyurethane. You can get polyurethane in a super gloss, semi-gloss, or matte coating. You can also get polyurethane in like a spray paint bottle. We've got a change of scenery to the Kibbe warehouse. We have a market tomorrow that I am getting ready for, so I'm gonna figure out the final layout for the new shelf. What I'm doing for this weekend is having a bunch of hanging apparel and then putting pennants down here, but we're using both hanging displays. So the other rack is gonna look like this, with apparel and tote bags, and then my usual t-shirt display up here. So there is the final new collapsible rack for the market tomorrow. And I will be sure to get plenty of content of both of these stands next to each other. It's been over 2 years since I designed this originally, and it's crazy how it's evolved from its original intention. And I'm really excited to see both of them together for the first time tomorrow. We are set up at the market. Everyone say hi, Trey. And here are the two stands next to each other. They look so good. Our booth neighbor was commenting on how genius the build was. And then my new favorite thing about this is that we put this 2 feet from the back, so we have this wall for storage back there, and I've been hanging out there as well. In terms of attaching this apparel, we have clear alligator clips right here. They're basically like big bobby pins. And then I have a sign on each one right at the top. And then these are just folded with size stickers. Over here, these are just white hangers from Target. And then of course, those are just sitting on the shelf. I also have these bins underneath, and we put extra inventory in these bins. I hope the video you just watched was a really helpful tutorial. My goal with this was to make a fairly complicated process and simplify it down as much as possible so that anyone can build it. As you could see, there were written instructions updating in the top left corner of the video. So if you'd like to build this and follow along with written instructions, as well as get my exact dimensions, you can access those written instructions at canyoubeливeit.com/shelf. In addition, this was just the first video in a whole series of videos, so be sure to check out
out the other collapsible shelf videos that are on my channel. Lastly, if you use the links in the description, I will make a small chunk of change off of that. Those are affiliate links and I really appreciate if you use those. Other than that, be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys for the next market build. Bye!